show of the weekend, and arguably the shocker of the weekend, which was NXT Battleground. Um, they actually counter programmed AEW Double or Nothing, which we're going to cover next. But I wanted to know your impressions on NXT Battleground, some of the highlights. What were things that you just kind of like took away, bright spots, all that?
Um, I want to say that probably not going to use the best wording here, but I feel like it was a delightful surprise. Um, it was like the mouthwash I needed to watching AEW. I was not watching in real time like the rest of the fans was for the reasons I explained in this intro of the show. So I watched actually AEW first in its entirety, and then I watched NXT.
Mm.
AEW put me to sleep, but NXT woke me the fuck up. And I might get called a shield for this, but I almost want to give that show like a 10 out of 10 because there was almost no misses. A few botches did happen in one match. I want to say with like Tiffany and Lyra, but like the show itself was so exciting, and it was only 5 matches, which again goes to show you that is quality over quantity, Tony. Because out of those 9 matches, and we're gonna go into a rant after that, 3 of them were watchable and actual takeaways. I woke up to my feed trying not to spoil it for myself, but of course it's a habit to wake up and check my timeline at this point.
Right.
No one was talking about AEW past the surprise news between the couple. Um, all of it pretty much was about Battleground. And like again, I have been watching NXT, and it heavily made me felt like, all right, I definitely was sleeping on them. And now I need to get back on this program because bro, bro, I have been sleeping on the concept of the Creed brothers. I don't know why I haven't been giving them my time, but I was watching them and I felt like a child again. And then I discussed this in the group chat, and then um Jordan made this perfect comparison because I said they were like Brock's children because I started watching freaking Julius throw these guys around 10 times for German suplexes, but then Jordan hits me with this whole, it's like Kurt Shelton, and then what was the third one?
Kurt Shelton and Charlie Haas.
Yes, that they all somehow had 2 babies. And I was like, no wonder this like was so palatable and it felt like good. Like I felt like a child sitting in my seat. I'm like, I just liked them. Like for I couldn't put my finger on it. But I'm like, yo, these guys are fun, and I don't pay attention to like tag team wrestling, so it's a big thing for me to actually pay attention to a tag team wrestling match because my biggest ick with modern day tag team wrestling is that they do too much tricks and they do less selling and less actual wrestling. They'll just pop out as many combinations and flips as they can, and everyone just stands back up. But here, they still like wrestled very classically, and I'm just like, damn, I want to see them against FTR. I'm just like, that'd be bomb. Like, I need that. Like,
it's injected in my veins.
Yes, like I don't know. I got a weird high off of watching that tag team match that I couldn't explain until Jordan said that connection. I was just like, oh, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. What was the opener? The opener was Wesley versus
Tyler Bate versus I think it was Wesley and Tyler Bate, and it was a triple threat. It was Wesley, Tyler Bate, and Joe Gacy.
It was a triple
for the
threat.
title.
Yeah. Oh my god, I love that too. That match was fucking great. Um, one thing I normally don't like about triple threats is that people spend too much time rotating outside. But like they had put the perfect amount of timing into making sure everyone was in the ring, everyone was wrestling, everyone was countering each other. And everyone looked at fucking great. Fucking great. I don't watch too many Tyler Bate matches. I saw a few of his stuff in like NXT UK, but like I was just like so impressed by him. I was just like, damn, like why have I been sleeping on this show? Like I expected Wesley to pop off, but the other 2, they really just had me shook, just fucking shook. I could go on a whole spiel about this. I should probably break this up and ask you, how'd you feel about the triple threat? Let's go match by match.
I loved the triple threat so much, and while I'll also touch on the Creed brothers as well, since we're
Yeah,
gonna, I guess, bundle those two match impressions.
yeah,
So I love the triple threat as well. Another comparison that I made in said same group chat: Wesley reminds me of like a black X Pac. He's like he's like young, energetic.
yeah.
He has like a lot of drip and a lot of juice to him, but he feels a little bit degenerate esque, and you could tell in his movement. It's just a very like unique presentation. Like, and even when Wesley was a part of the tag team MSK, it felt like DX went out and recruited a junior heavyweight tag team, and that was what they got, was MSK. So I've always loved Wesley. He always kind of reminded me of like like a black X Pac. And obviously with Joe Gacy and Tyler Bate, I've always been a fan of Tyler Bate. I thought he was the last ever NXT UK champion. And he really was a cornerstone of that brand. And anytime he had a match on that brand, he was always knocking it out the park. So I'm not surprised at Bates' ability. I am surprised at Joe Gacy. And here's what I will say. We talked about the entrances, and I think that's something we're going to get into as well, because I have a theory about that. um I now understand why people, I guess, when they were talking about Bray Wyatt kind of being written off the internal WWE roster, I now know why there is no concern. I feel like WWE is trying to build up Joe Gacy to be the next mystique centric character in WWE. I
Mhm.
don't know how that's gonna go. But he's definitely progressing in the right direction, because I feel like he has something with Schism. Not to say that Joe Gacy is the next Bray Wyatt or the new Bray Wyatt or none of that, but I feel like every generation they try to develop a modern day version of a previous generation's m- mystery or mystique centric character. I feel like first it was The Undertaker, then it was Kane, then you had like, some of them were hits and some of them were misses. You had Mordecai. In WCW, you had Sting. And then in WWE, you also like, had Bray Wyatt. And now they're doing this whole Joe Gacy thing. And so I think that he's kind of like the next generation of Mystique in WWE. I love the triple threat. It felt really, really engaging and exciting. And the fact that Joe Gacy was his size and he is so athletic and so agile, I think really helped pump some juice into the match. I love that match. The Creed brothers definitely give me junior greatest tag team ever vibes with Shelton and Charlie. I feel like they've been able to kind of pop off, because I feel like there was a little bit of uncertainty surrounding them, because they were in Diamond Mine and they had that whole thing with Damon Cross, I believe it was, like that little feud they had going on, which I honestly didn't think was necessary. And then they also had Roderick Strong in the group before he went to AEW. And I feel like because obviously Roddy was the former Undisputed Elite member, there was a lot of focus on him. But I feel like now that they know, all right, Roddy's in WWE, Damon is doing his own thing. Now they can focus on the Creed brothers more as a tag team and as a focal point of the Diamond Mine collective, because it's them and it's also Ivy Nile. I love that tag match. I think it was great. I think it was clean. Um, yeah, and I really, really mess with that. I really, really love that tag team, and I love that tag team match. Um, I think the next thing, I guess, the next big match was the women's title match with Tiffany Stratton and Lyra. I wanted to know your impressions on that. How did you feel about that? Um how did you feel about that match? Granted, there were a couple botches, but how did you feel like they handled that position?
Okay, so I've seen Tiffany's work. I haven't seen any of Lyra's work until I seen this match. And she definitely impressed me. You could kind of tell that Lyra was more experienced and she was kind of leading, because
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany's still relatively new, from my understanding, to wrestling as a whole. Like she has like a gymnastics background or something, and I think that's where she was a little rusty. She's good at like
Mm-hmm.
pulling off the athletic moves, but in terms of like the wrestling, she has yet to like master her timing. So that's just where Lyra had to do extra selling, or some moves had to be redone, or again Lyra was basically like leading the match. But I became a fan of her by the end of it. But I still actually enjoyed Tiffany Stratton as a wrestler. I love her look. Her ring gear was fire. Okay.
Tough.
Um, I think that they went with the right champion because if Nikita wasn't injured or out currently wrestling, she definitely would have had the belt by now. But you know that their next pick was definitely Tiffany. And I could have swore that I heard in commentary they said like she was like a Shawn Michaels pick, like both of them were Shawn Michaels picks or something like that. I could see why. They both have like their own star quality to them. But Tiffany's definitely more E. I actually like her a lot. She could like you could like delete a handful of blondes off of the main roster that probably will never be utilized properly or really have much of a purpose, and just insert Tiffany, and that would make up for a lot. I could see her doing having a few good matches. Like I could see her working with Charlotte. That's actually something I would be excited to see.
Yeah.
Um, she one thing I just like about Tiffany is that her character is so simple but so effective. Like she's like the epitome of white privilege, and she just throws it into your face. And it doesn't help that there's information that like she's like MAGA whatnot, but like it's almost kind of perfect because she makes like the perfect heel. Like she's obnoxious, but she's like she checks off every single box of what Vince would want in a blonde that would have otherwise made her over. But like here's the kicker: she's actually great at wrestling. She just needs more time, which is
Right.
why I think that they're giving her the belt to see what she could do. And I think we're gonna get a good reign out of it. I'm not expecting a super long reign out of Tiffany, but I'm expecting to see more flavor with NXT having her as a heel, just because Tiffany still needs to be molded as a wrestler, but her personality is there, and you could always get more storylines out of a heel champion, especially
Hmm.
with how obnoxious she is. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think the right person won. Maybe down the line we could get Lyra because I really do enjoy her. I wouldn't mind even seeing like a rematch up, but I love it. By the way, I love her entrance too. That's an entrance that's going to look so cool during like main roster pay-per-views and stuff like that. Like automatically, I forgot her theme song, but like the whole camera stuff like that reminded me of like Melina and the whole paparazzi stuff.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I love that. Like again, it's the attention to details and little callbacks that they do. Like she's gonna be interesting. I know a lot of people want to hate her, but like it's so hard too because she's actually like someone who's going to be special. Like you could just see it. Like Shawn Michaels has a really good eye for talent, and she's kind of it. What did you feel about that whole match and Tiffany winning?
I think you're right. I think that they went with the right champion. I think Tiffany should have won. I also feel like Lyra did a great job selling that knee from the very very beginning of the match.
Oh
It because
yeah.
there was a moment where I thought it was a legit thing, and then there was a moment where she wasn't limping on that knee. She felt good, and then she went back to it. That's how I knew she was selling it. So she was selling the knee
Oh, she's
really really
good.
well. So I was like, that's really 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 good. But I feel like you said, Tiffany has a great look. I think she's going to be very very interesting on the main roster. I think she hasn't been wrestling that long, but she is super athletic. That moonsault is one of the cleanest I've ever seen in my life. That prettiest
Yeah.
moonsault ever, super clean. And in ring wise, she's really really sound. She has the look. Obviously, she has the credentials now as being the NXT Women's Champion. And I feel like her promos are pretty solid. I feel like there's room for growth. But even she said in like previous interviews, like, hey, I'm not ready for the main roster yet. Like, I got work to do. So the fact that we have someone who has that like sense of like self-awareness, I think that is really, really commendable. And so I think that that match was really, really good. I feel like Tiffany is really, really good. And even down to like the week after, she did like the little I'm the champion celebration, and it came off really, really obnoxious. And I love
She
that
did
for
botch
her.
that promo though.
She did 100%. But you know what? Baby steps. All right, one at a time. Baby steps. But I think she's really, really good, I'm really, really excited to see where she goes next. So we'll see what goes on with that. But
Yeah.
that was that match. I was gonna ask you because this was something that you pointed out to me. The British rounds match between Noam Dar and Dragon Lee.
Oh
Wanted you to tell the
yeah.
people how you felt about that because I thought this is a really, really interesting kind of take set of takeaways.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I noticed that with NXT, though I don't keep up with the show, I noticed that Hunter does this thing, or maybe Shawn Michaels, I guess, because he's the one that takes over NXT, right? Um, like he has been doing this thing where he's been introducing different match styles that I'm not sure if they're concepts that he made up or that he just sees in other countries or other continents, but like he's putting stuff in there that kind of like throws a little bit spice on these shows because I mean, I've been watching wrestling right since like 2004 or whatnot. So in my head, I feel like I know that there's every match type out there. But then I go to NXT and then like I see like a match I never heard of. Like what back in December or January they had the Survivor
I am
match.
Survivor. I am
Yeah,
Survivor.
that
Yeah.
that was like supposed to be a new twist for war games, and I delightfully like fell in love with that. Was there a pay-per-view in between? I felt like there was something else that they threw in there that was in between that match and this. But I just know that consecutively on 2.0, a big thing that they keep doing is showing you that like wrestling could be like spoken in different languages almost. So
Mm.
I loved this match. And I like the psychology that goes behind it. They said it on commentary about how you're on like a time slot, right? And because you're on a time slot, like you want to keep going with your momentum to try to like get that pinfall, and you may not even get the pinfall at all. A, but then B is that like it kind of like stops you and halts you if you don't get it because you got to
Mm.
reset, which gives your opponent time to like rethink, and it gives you more time to rethink about how you're gonna go about this. Like you might have been on a roll beating their asses, but now they're forcing you to pull back. So I kind of like that because that would fuck with my head too if I was wrestling somebody. Because they just watch, like, I thought I put out all my stops, but I forgot where I was at and that I had a small amount of time to get this work in. But now I'm notating. I'm notating as an opponent. All right, like he pulled out all these stops. Now I know how I'm gonna get his ass the next round. Boom, I got his ass the next round, and now I got you shaking because you're thinking, shit. Now I got 4 more rounds to prove myself. Like I love the psychology behind it because it's kind of like a boxing
Nice.
style match, if you will, but just with more rounds. And it was just really cool to me. It was fun. I something that I wish was kind of like a regular thing, not like every single show, but like I wish that that was like a match style that I could almost play in a video game for WWE because I thought the concept is really cool. And I thought the match was fun. Who went over for that match? I'm not good with the
No
names.
Amdar. No Amdar. No Amdar
The
went.
person that came in with the cup.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just thought the match itself was just awesome, and again, I appreciate Shawn Michaels for showing us different forms of like wrestling or ways you can incorporate wrestling. What was your takeaway for this match?
First things first, one thing Noam Dar is going to do, he's going to find his way around the sisters, okay? Whether it's Alicia Fox, Lash Legend, Miss Jackson, this man is always around a sister, all right?
Yes.
And I ain't mad at him. But I think this is obviously, like you said, it was a great match. I love the fact that, yes, obviously NXT UK folded, but they don't make it feel like it didn't matter because this was a match that was prominent in NXT UK. The Heritage Cup was kind of like their mid card title, what a North American title was to NXT, what the Intercontinental US Championship is to the main rosters in their respective shows, is what the Heritage Cup was to NXT UK. So the fact that they brought that cup over and they make it feel like it matters by putting it in these matches, and I've always loved Noam Dar, even when he was a part of the NXT UK like initial tournament, I think it was. He's always been a great talent. I think he was in the cruiserweight division as well. He's always been a great talent, always been a phenomenal wrestler. And like you said, there were little things that showed you who was at an advantage and who wasn't at an advantage, or who this would put limits on and who this wouldn't put limits on. I remember at the end of round one, Dragon Lee was about to do a dive outside the ring, but the time expired and the ref was like, whoa, 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 and it was like, that's attention to detail. it shows you that he's used to capitalizing off of his momentum to speed up some offense. And it's just
That's
like,
cool.
that's cool. And then at the end of another round, like I think Noam got like hit in the ear, and then he the time expired, and he hit a back elbow on Dragon Lee, and then the ref was like, "Whoa, you can't do that," and then Noam was like, "No, no, no, I couldn't hear it. My ear, my ear, my ear." So like stuff like that, I thought was really, really interesting, and the fact that they're using elements from these matches to kind of shift the momentum of the match. For example, every in the British rounds match, every participant has a cornerman, right?
Mm.
Every participant has a quarterman, a towel, and a bucket, which is usually used for spit, blood, water, whatever. Later in the match, while it wasn't really heavily used, last round comes around, both of them are down. Miss Jackson comes down the ramp. Lash Legend hops over the back, hits Dragon Lee with the bucket, the pin, 1, 2, 3. And it's just like that would not have happened in a regular match because only a British rounds match is going to put a corner man and a bucket in your corner. So stuff
Mm.
like that is like wow, like they pay attention to these little details, and it really makes the match, and it also develops the character even more to show you what type of person they are. The match, I don't know if you watched it, but the next match that really like rocked me, Ilya Dragunov versus Dijak in that last man standing match. Did you see that? Did you
I
see
didn't
that?
watch the match. It's just that I'm trying to remember which one was which. Because the one with the mask, I think I've seen his work before. It was the other guy who I have not seen before. So I was like,
It
okay, this guy's kind of weird looking, but by the end of it, I'm like, oh, I kind of like him. like,
Ilya Ilya was the guy from NXT UK who had like the symphony music who came out. Dijak was the
oh,
one with the shades. Donovan. I think the guy with the mask was Dragon Lee.
I seen
And
Dragon Lee before. It was the other dude, the Elliot guy. Like I didn't
Ilya
see him before.
Dragunov, yeah.
Yeah, like he
He's an
impressed the
NXT
fuck out
UK
of
guy.
me. Oh, okay. Come, I feel like I see him before, but like I don't know, he looked different. Like, is he has
Yeah.
a different character now, or is it's the same thing? Because he looked
It's the same
same but
one.
different.
It's the same one, but it was. I mean, he was primarily in NXT UK, so it was just he just didn't have like that exposure in the states. But that was a banger. That
Yeah, that
match
was.
was super tough. And then obviously like Mello and Braun. Definitely wanted to know your opinions on that though.
Oh yeah, I actually got distracted by the end of it, so I could not watch the ending. But I know who won. I know who won. um, and again, like I said, considering that I wasn't like watching consistently, I was actually getting like a real feel of Braun as a heel. I love his entrance. I like how he comes
Mm,
out with a dog mask. It's kind of
mm,
corny, but it works for him.
right.
I love again like the whole hoodie thing. The facial hair looks great on him. He actually works to me and looks better as a heel than he does as a baby face. He already has kind of like I don't know, like a gym bro look that you kind of already just are expecting some bullshit out of him. So I love it. And I feel like it's very fitting for him. Of course, like him and Mello worked with each other before, so I was expecting for it to be a banger. So I thought, from what I saw, because I didn't get to see the ending, can you please fill me in on what the ending was?
So the ending consisted of, first off, the beginning of the end was easily the best spear I've seen in my entire life from Braun Breaker. Carmelo was like in the middle of the air. He was going for his thing, and then Braun hit him. But he kicked out of that, obviously, and then that led to it was a clean pin where Mello hit the I think it was the leg drop, if I'm not mistaken, to get the pin to win that match.
Ending with a leg drop. How do
But
you feel about that?
it worked. Like, you know what it is? It's not necessarily it's not the most captivating, but when I think about Mello and I think of how much he's going to be a star, I want him to have a finisher that's going to have a long life in WWE. And that leg drop is going to allow him to have a long life. Like,
Hmm.
I want him to have longevity. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's powerful enough to that fact that like it's powerful enough so that if he were to win a world championship, you would believe it. But it's simple enough to he could do it for 20, 30 years. You know what
Jeez,
I'm
who else
saying?
had a leg drop finisher besides Hogan?
Um, Taker had a leg drop signature move on the apron, but it wasn't a.
No, it
It
wasn't like
wasn't
a
like the
classic leg
finisher.
drop.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
interesting to bring back
and
a classic move as a finisher that
I
was
mean,
used by a legend, even though I hate this particular legend. Go on,
listen,
sorry.
if y'all want to give Hogan's move to Mello, I do not mind. Right? That's now Mello's leg drop. It was a good ending. It was a good ending, and I think it was really really cool the way that they did that. But we run. We've been talking about this for a while. We want to know what y'all opinions are on NXT Battleground. Let us know in the comments. Leave them things below. We're gonna get into what I and Mo have been both dying to talk about, which is AEW Double or Nothing.